Alexander Calder-Spinelli here of Longbow Media. We are here at the NRA meeting 2019 in Indianapolis, Indiana, at the Beretta booth with Ms. Kim Rhode, who is a 6-time shotgun Olympic medalist. Thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
So let's go into some detail about your experiences as a shotgun Olympic medalist. Is this largely won by U.S. competitors, or is this very much still a global competition?
Well, I'd like to say that it was dominated or is dominated by the U.S. competitors, but it is a global group of competitors that we have. The last World Cup, we had over 400 competitors representing 67 different countries. So there's quite a few of us, and it's very depth in the talent and the abilities that we have.
So how much training is involved for shotgun shooting in the Olympics?
So an average shooter will shoot anywhere between 500 to 1,000 rounds a day. At least that's what I'm doing, 7 days a week. So we shoot quite a bit anywhere. I think I have somewhere about 3 or 4 million rounds in my lifetime.
I'm assuming sponsorship definitely helps the ammo costs on that.
Oh yeah, but we start like everybody else. We reload our own and do everything, and you kind of work your way up. But yeah, definitely to be at the level that we're at, we have a lot of support from a lot of different people.
Mm-hmm. Now, as far as the support that you have, it looks like you're sponsored by Beretta and you use Beretta shotguns as your primary?
Yeah, I compete with the Beretta DT11. It's one that's just off the shelf. It wasn't custom made for me. I do have a custom stock made by Winnick, but other than that, it's just your standard factory chokes, factory trigger, Beretta DT11 that you find in everyday stores. And that's what I'm competing with and bringing home the medals for the United States with.
Now, what's the competition like? Like, what's the style of competitions? So
I'm competing in international skeet and international bunker, and basically we're shooting 24 grams or 7/8 ounce number 9s if you're shooting skeet, or 7.5s if you're shooting trap. It's basically a shell that's designed specifically for our sport, the international forms of shooting, which tend to be the more challenging of the shotgun sports. Mm-hmm. They essentially are throwing a bird that's like 60, 70 miles an hour. You have to start with the gun at your hip. When you call pull, the bird can come out the second you call pull, or up to 3 seconds anywhere at random, and you shoot singles and doubles, and in skeet the targets cross you. Then you go over into bunker. You have 15 machines inlaid underground, 5 stations. You shoot it, target, move, shoot, target, move until you've completed 25 shots. You get 2 shots at every target, and you start with the gun mounted. So it just really depends on what sport, but that's the beautiful thing about shooting. There's no shelf life. You can do it forever.
What's the most challenging part of the sport, and what's your most enjoyable part?
Well, the most challenging, I think, is basically the travel. I mean, we're talking going to, Azerbaijan, and I just got back from Al Ain, United Arab Emirates, and I'm leaving in 2 days for South Korea. So the different time zones and time changes, and trying to be up for the competition and not falling asleep because you're jet lagged and everything else that goes into that. But as far as the funnest part of it is that you get to see these amazing places and meet some incredible people from all over the world, and the cultures, and it's just really a fantastic sport. There's a lot of opportunities, and it just really is a lot of fun. I really feel fortunate that I get to do it every day.
Now, how do you reach the point where you actually get selected to be on the U.S. team to go to the Olympics? Are there a lot of competitions that kind of weed people out before then?
So to make the Olympic team, it's a series of matches that you have to compete in, and they take the top 3 competitors from those matches, and those are the top 3 that represent the United States in the Olympics or in a World Cup or World Championship. It really, each match is determined on certain selection matches that we have here in the United States.
And do you have a favorite Olympic place that you've been to as of yet?
Oh, that's a tough one. I mean, my favorite Olympics is obviously my first Olympics, which was in 1996. I was 16 years old, and I don't think I really realized what it was I was doing until I got home, and I, saw the reactions that I was getting, and people crying, and what it really meant to be an Olympian. But then, I go from, Atlanta to Sydney to Athens, where the Olympics began, was incredible, marching through those tunnels that athletes marched through, years and years ago, to Beijing, London, and then in Rio, and hopefully Tokyo. So I've had the honor of representing the United States 6 times in 6 different Olympics, and I can honestly say that it doesn't matter if it's the gold, the silver, the bronze. When you stand up on that podium and you watch that American flag or not, you still get all the emotions that hit you at once. I mean, it's really about that journey.
Now, do you find competing in the Olympics adds extra pressure onto you during the competition that otherwise wouldn't be there?
Most definitely. I mean, when you're out there, you have a crowd of people cheering you on. I mean, when you hit a target, it's like, yeah, you know, but when you miss, it's like, ooh, and that's a hard thing to block out. But yeah, I mean, the Olympics have a life of their own, and definitely you feel that as an athlete.
So what started this passion? How did you get involved when you were 16 to go to the Olympics?
Well, I actually started through some of the NRA junior programs. So I started off shooting competitive rifle, standing, kneeling, 3P essentially, standing, kneeling, prone, and progressed from there into somebody said, hey, you know, you're pretty good. Why don't you try the club shoot? And it was the state shoot, and I was introduced to the moving targets, and of course I was hooked for life, and the rest is just history. But I essentially came up through the NRA programs, through hunting, and the way of life. It was just passed down generation to generation in my family, and I started off club shoots and state shoots, and here I am 6 Olympics later, going for my 7th.
Now, what's the best way you'd say for young kids or teens or even folks older to get involved in shooting sports for competition, or maybe even try to go to the Olympics later on?
Well, I think
How do they start that journey?
The journey just starts with going out to your local gun club and picking up a gun and getting some lessons, and starting that passion, and you'll get funneled in that direction towards the Olympics. I mean, there's a lot of opportunities out there. There's a lot of competitions, and there's a lot of people willing to kind of help you and step up to that. But at the end of the day, the first step is just going out to your local gun club and giving it a try. That's the first step.
All right. And final question, Second Amendment, what does it mean to you and your sport? How has it made it possible?
Well, Second Amendment means everything to me. I think one of the reasons that I got essentially into the NRA was because of the fact that after one of the Olympics, I was asked to comment on the Aurora tragedy, and for me at that point is when I realized I need to be more active, more involved, and really show the positive light of the shooting sports. And thus I took on a much more political role, speaking at the RNC and doing stuff with Trump's Second Amendment coalition, and also I'm actually the lead plaintiff against the state of California on Prop 63, which is one of the gun-mageddon laws, and essentially just trying to show people what our sport really is about. And for me, the Second Amendment is something that's integrated in my family and passed down generation to generation, and I hope to continue that tradition on to my son and for future generations.
Now, actually, regarding the Second Amendment and actually the political jargon that surrounds it, do you find that a lot of the times the competitive side, the sports side, gets lost in that language sometimes, and people just kind of forget it exists?
Well, I think a lot of times people try to lump us into something that we're not. And so lumping us into these tragedies that have absolutely nothing to do with our sport, nothing to do with what we represent, nothing to do with any of us in this building. As we teach responsibility, discipline, focus, I mean, that is what the NRA is about. That is what we are about, and really passing on that heritage and making sure that we have that for future generations. And so, yeah, I think we definitely lose that a little bit with the media, and I think that's one of our jobs, is to educate people and make sure that they are knowledgeable about what it is we do.
Mm-hmm. All right, and final thing is, any other thoughts, anything else you would like to add about yourself, the Olympics, the NRA, Beretta, whatever?
Just that this is great. Please come on out, check out the NRA show. If you haven't been to one, they're incredible. And also just go out to your local club, talk to people. You'll find that they're an amazing group of people and a very eclectic group of people. And it's a lot of fun. It's a great sport. You could do it for a lifetime, for a long, long time. And get more involved.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
You've been watching Longbow Media here at the Beretta booth at NRA Indy 2019. We've been speaking with 6-time Olympic gold medalist for shotgun shooting, Ms. Kim Rhode.